Right, so we're going to start with the quickfire questions.
Okay.
Okay. Summer or winter?
Summer, definitely.
New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve?
Christmas Eve, the excitement, yeah.
And I prefer Christmas Eve to Christmas Day for that reason.
Well, I love Christmas Day because you get the big roast dinner. But Christmas Eve for me always feels a lot more magical.
Yeah, it's so much more magical, isn't it?
And also the New Year's always a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to be the best year ever, and it never is.
Yeah, it's such an anticlimax on January the 1st. It's like the worst day of the world, yeah.
Especially if you've been drinking on New Year's Eve and you're just like, ow.
The magic's done, it's all over. Flat.
Back to the real world.
Yeah. Introvert or extrovert?
Introvert. I think people will see me as an extrovert because I'm a performer, but actually I am at my happiest when I'm at home with the doors closed and the curtains closed and the fire on in my pajamas, just like nibbling on nice food.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, for sure. And it's weird because when you do stuff and you're kind of in front of a camera and speaking, people think...
automatically.
Yeah, but it's hard.
Yeah, but I'm happy to actually not say anything. I like being quiet. I like being on my own. I'm like a true Cancerian. Okay. Yeah, I just like to go into my shell.
Yeah, we call it our cave.
Yeah.
We're just like, I'm going in my cave for a few days. Kindle or real book?
Ooh, real book. I don't know. I always get funny eyes on a Kindle.
Yeah.
I always go a bit like, ooh. I think there's nothing better than just that feeling of just like the smell of a book.
Smell, yeah. I love the smell.
And I you know, I'm old school. I'm getting on a bit now. Yeah.
You're not. We've just had this conversation. Active holiday or relaxing holiday?
I would normally say, well, what's a relaxing holiday? With all the kids?
5 kids.
Oh, I would love a relaxing holiday right now. Life is chaotic. I have 3 kids at home, one's a toddler. So I'd love to like go away alone.
Yeah.
Like to like a juice retreat.
Yeah.
Read a book.
Yeah.
That would
What is reading?
Oh my God. And like just go on nice walks and not have to do anything or anything be expected of me. That would be nice.
Yeah. I feel that. Okay, so the next one, you're going to have to then give the background story to, okay?
Okay.
Prince William or Prince Harry?
Well, once upon a time, I was at, so I'm going to say Will's because we've got a connection. So I performed at the Prince's Trust gig in London many moons ago, and there was a royal lineup after the show, and Will's come along. And I've met Will's as part of Atomic Kitten many times before. Him and Harry were Atomic Kitten fans when they were younger. And it got to me, and he went, Tash. And I was like, Will's. And like he put his arms on my arms, and I put mine on his, and we did like a mwah, mwah, sweetie darling. But in the midst of the mwah, mwah, you know, my lips were puckered and we both blinked at the same time.
Oh, gosh.
And then somebody like got the picture and superimposed a tongue.
I mean, you have to laugh now.
I have to say, at the time, it was the most mortifying thing to wake up the following day and like you're tonguing the future king on the front page of all the papers. I was mortified. At the time, I'd just got a new boyfriend as well. Luckily, he was there.
He knew.
He was stood there, like behind Will's when I met him, so he knew it didn't happen. But that would have been a really weird conversation.
Definitely didn't.
I wasn't kissing Prince William last night.
That's not my tongue.
Yeah, and he's not my type anyway.
Oh, and Natasha, it's lovely to have you here and be interviewing you and have you part of the charity. It's been so lovely to get to know you kind of behind the scenes. So we're going to start and share your story, which there's lots to cover and lots to talk about. Yeah. And the way we always do it, we go back pre-anything. Who were you? What did life look like? What were you hoping for life? And then talk us through what happened.
Yeah, before life got a bit more serious, I was quite like just vivacious. I feel like I was just brimming with life. Like I could get out of bed in the morning and I'd just be like so energized for the day. I used to really love going to the gym and keeping fit. It wasn't a vanity thing. It was sheer mental health.
Yeah.
Because over the years, I realized that I was a better version of myself if I was going to the gym and, you know, letting off steam and having all the endorphins. You know, it's a bit of a cliche, but it really worked for me.
Yeah.
So even, you know, I didn't have to be doing anything like super fit, but just getting out the house and being active.
Yeah.
It was something I loved and I really enjoyed. I feel like I was a lot less, I don't know, I just feel like when I look back, I was quite youthful and vivacious. Like they're the words I would use to describe me, like on a daily basis. And yeah, things are different now.
You feel like you're invincible in those days, don't you? And you just can't think that anything's ever going to happen. You're going to live forever and you're completely immortal and all these plans for what life's going to look like.
Yeah, I think now I'm a very much more mindful of everything that I'm doing. Yeah. Not to say that I'm stressed, but I don't know. It's like, if I do that, how am I going to feel? Is that going to impact my body? Is it going to impact my mind? Is it going to impact the way I interact with the kids? Is it going to take too much out of me?
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm very mindful of like my energy reserves, and I'm not as carefree as I was before. I feel like mentally I've aged a lot, and aged mentally before I was ready to, and before I wanted to, and before I should have had to.
But you started a very unique career path at a young age that not many people do. Do you want to talk about how that's influenced, you know, your approach to life and everything?
Growing up in a girl band, which I have to say, first and foremost, was, you know, an incredible career and an incredible opportunity for me as a young girl growing up from the inner city of Liverpool. But it was very chaotic. Yeah. I feel like I was always living on a prayer. Like the industry itself is very lastminute.com, and it was highlighted a lot more when I met my husband. He's a very organised person, and it's not to say I'm not organised, but sometimes it can be hard to be organised within the industry because you get your information last minute. It would not be strange for me to be getting on a plane to a different country. Literally all I know is what plane I have to be on and where I'm landing, and maybe the name of a driver picking me up. I'm still waiting for the finer details to come through via email. So I'm hoping that when I land, I will have an email with like the hotel. And like it can be really that lastminute.com. I've even landed in a country and my passport got flagged. And when they asked me who was picking me up, where I was going, I was like,
don't know.
I actually couldn't tell you. And this was in Abu Dhabi. And, you know, that's not a place really to be pulling the ditzy girl card. But I didn't know. Like, I think my email had just come through before I landed. I didn't memorize it. And I was like, oh, it's on an email. And they were like, what do you mean you don't know what hotel you're staying in? Because for me, that kind of information, like, I couldn't fixate on it. If I did and it wasn't there, I would be worried sick. So I learned just to go with the flow.
Yeah.
I was a very much go with the flow. I know everything will be fine. I can get to A to B. I don't need to know the hurdles.
Yeah.
I just need to see the finish line and I'll figure it out. Yeah. So when I met my husband, he was like,
that's not normal.
How can you live like this? But you just condition yourself to be that type of person. So I feel like before my condition, I was very, it doesn't matter. I don't have to plan because I just see the finish line. Whereas actually now with what I'm living with, there's so much planning.
Yeah.
There's so much mindfulness that has to be taken into consideration. So it has changed who I am. And I think to change your makeup as a person in your 40s, it's like, you know, you're going against the grain of what your mind and body wants to be, or And it feels like a blow. And I have to say, like, for me, traveling, especially if I'm going abroad or away for more than a night and I have to take like my medication and stuff, it's anxiety central. The amount of times I've misplaced medication, forgotten medication, it's been in my suitcase has got lost. Like, it gets to a point where having to be super switched on is a drain.
Yeah.
Especially throw into that perimenopausal brain that doesn't work.
So, like, going back to kind of, do you think things changed when you started having children?
So for me, mental health issues was something I wasn't very aware of. And when I say that, I grew up in a household and my parents are incredible and they've always supported me, but there was very much a consensus of there's no such thing as depression.
Yeah.
Like, it's something I remember my dad saying because he never experienced it and he didn't understand it. So I kind of lived my life of, if I was down,
Yeah.
you don't deal with it, you just ignore it.
Yeah.
You push it down, you get on.
Yeah.
Because what have I got to be unhappy about? Especially when you're in the biggest girl band in the country, if not the world at the time.
Yeah.
You're financially stable. You've got a beautiful home. What the hell have I got to be upset and down about? But the reality of it is none of that actually matters. Like, your brain doesn't go, oh, I've got 100 grand in the bank, so I'm happy.
So I'm going to produce more serotonin.
Yeah, it doesn't, exactly that. It doesn't work like that. It's, your state of well-being comes from how you look after yourself.
Yeah.
It's not about the money or the house. And fundamentally, it's like, how can you look after you? How can you look after this? You kind of get into that, I don't really care.
Yeah.
You're not showing yourself any love. You feel like what you should be doing is going out and let your hair down, but actually you should be retreating and looking at the deeper root causes. But when you're a teenager...
I don't think like that.
No, and you know what? I do feel like kids now are a lot more mindful. They're learning a lot more about themselves. They are educated a lot more within school. They have parents who are from my generation who actually had to learn. Yeah, like my parents never did counselling. They would never go and see a therapist. I've done that. I've had to put that work into me, and I talk openly about my experiences with my kids.
Yeah.
So hopefully, one, they know they can come to me, and if they don't come to me or they feel like they can't, they know there's options available to them. My mental health, I think everyone's mental health within the band, and anyone that was in a pop band in the noughties, suffered because we were just a commodity. We were on the money-making train.
Yeah.
And when you've got a corporation investing millions of pounds into you, then you're getting out of bed in the morning and you're going to work.
Yeah.
It's, they need to make their money back.
Yeah.
Understandably. Sometimes, though, that machine, that train becomes detrimental to the mental health of the people who are, getting carried along with it. And, we should have really been looked after in a much more nurturing way.
Yeah.
And be a role model to young girls. And you've not even made any serious life decisions yet, or, you've not been in a proper relationship, and there's a lot of life that you need to learn, but that's scrutinised and you're doing it in the spotlight. So that's like an added layer of pressure. So I think, before I even had a child, there was a lot going on that was just getting masked.
And this is the thing, when if those things aren't dealt with as you go along, this is what they always say, it's going to come back at some point.
Yeah.
It's going to catch up with you. You can't keep pushing it down and not deal with that, because at some point it'll play catch up.
But it's just a pressure cooker, isn't it?
Yeah.
when I look back, I think, oh God, wouldn't it have been wonderful if we had a life coach? Or wouldn't it have been wonderful if, as part of our deal, we had to see a therapist twice a month?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there was no Zoom then. There was no FaceTime. So for us to actually stop a promo trail to give us time to nurture ourselves, that's laughable back then. It'd be like, what? But as a woman, as a mother, I go, oh, if we were just nurtured that little bit more, things could have been so much more different. And I didn't want to put extra pressure on my mum. So when I was going through these tough times, I didn't want to pick the phone up and be crying and go, oh, Mum, because I knew she'd worry. So I just kept it to myself. And that wasn't her, like, that was no one's fault. That was me feeling like I was protecting my mum because I didn't want her to worry more than what she was. So yeah, it was a lot. It was incredible. It was a dream job. It took me away from, Liverpool and gave me a life.
Incredible life
And incredible opportunities. But the flip side of that is how it fundamentally is going to affect you mentally in the long run.
And you definitely did learn the hard way of that all catching up with you and coming back and hitting you. Talk about what happened when you became a mum and it all caught up with you.
So I became a mum at a very young age. I was 19 when I fell pregnant with Josh, 20 when I had him. And, I think I look back now and I go, what the hell what was happening? But there was no blueprint for how do you look after a child who's having a child who's in a pop band.
I was going to say the pressure of being a new mum anyway, but having the whole public scrutiny because you were kind of put on a pedestal of like everyone, the world's looking at you because you're in the public eye, which just adds so much more pressure, and I can't even imagine how intense that was.
It was frightening at first because in my mind I was getting the sack. I was like, okay, they don't want, who's going to want a pregnant 19-year-old in a pop band? But the girls really supported my decision and management really fought for me and I stayed. And actually the pregnancy side of it for me was really enjoyable because I had to slow back. I had to slow down. I had to just become a more chilled version of myself because I had a baby to look after. I wasn't going out. I wasn't burning the candle. I was actually looking after myself for the first time in years, probably. The schedule wasn't as intense. That's not to say it wasn't intense, by the way. That just meant we weren't getting planes. We'd sometimes get trains instead, which meant you had to maybe have a day of travel instead of travel and work in the same day. There's no HR when you're in a pop band. So there's no one going, okay, so what are your concerns? How can we help you? How can we support you through your pregnancy? So I don't ever recall having any conversation about what will the plan be for my maternity. It was like shoehorn. It just so happened that we were releasing a single that coincided when I was having Josh. So it was like, okay, so you're going to do this. We had a big gig at the Buckingham Palace. It was the Queen's Golden Jubilee. I vaguely remember it being one of the last things I did in the band. Then I was taking like 6 weeks off. And then I was to come back to work because we would have just released The Tide is High. So it wasn't like we're going to push The Tide is High release back a few months so that you can have time off. What happened was when I stopped working, the girls then went straight into the promo for The Tide is High.
Oh my gosh.
So they did a lot of it without me. And actually, I've just had a thought. because they knew I was not going to be available for the promo because I was having a baby, they sent us all into the studio to record the song. And when they brought the song back, they didn't even put me on the record. They played it to us in the car and my voice wasn't even on it. And I burst out crying. Like, could you imagine the panic? I was like, oh my God, that's it. They don't want me no more. And I remember phoning my manager being like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Like, am I out? And he was like, I don't know why they would do that because I went in.
Yeah.
I went to record
there.
the song, but then they didn't put me on the record.
Like, does someone else know something that I don't?
I was devastated.
Oh my
Anyway, I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but then they...
Your voice reappeared.
All of a sudden I was back on the track. But yeah, they were carrying on without me. And I even did the video quite heavily pregnant.
Yeah. And it was such a record hit as well.
It was huge.
Yeah.
It was always going to be huge.
It was, yeah.
I think then that we were just riding the momentum of all the other stuff that we'd done up until that point. So I feel like maybe the record company, there was too much fear to pause for a few weeks. So it was like, we just carry on. So while I remember the morning of going into labour with Josh, Jenny and Liz were doing like CD UK, The Tide is High.
Oh my God.
And they got t-shirts made with my face on. And they were, I was like in the hospital and they were there, like I was watching them. I must have definitely had an epidural at this point. If there was no, I wasn't actively pushing or anything. And they were on telly with my face. And they came straight from the studios to the hospital in London. They were all there. All the family, the girls. And then the following week, we were number one. I remember being sat on the stairs in my house phoning into the Pepsi chart. The girls were all over the place. They were literally all over Europe touring. And I was like, hey, yeah, we're number one. But postnatal, and I know they say it takes time for postnatal depression to kick in, but from my own personal experience, from the second I heard Josh cry, so I was planned a normal birth, but I had complications and ended up being rushed to an emergency C-section. And I remember when they were cutting me open, sorry, when he came out and he made a cry, I can hear it. He just went, meh. And the absolute fear engulfed my whole body. And honestly, up until that point, I felt so zen.
Yeah.
And it was a reality check of, oh shit.
I'm a mum. There's this thing.
I'm responsible for this child now. And the fear from that moment, honestly, I was terrified. Absolutely terrified. And I kept that feeling of fear locked deep down inside long after I went back to work, long after I would cry myself to sleep every night, long before my mental health was really bad. Like, people were like, what's wrong with Tash? And I was losing my shit. I would go to bed of a night and I would stare at the ceiling and my alarm would go off at 6 a.m. And I would cry because I wouldn't have slept a wink. And I just knew people would be like, what's wrong with her? I lost a lot of weight. People were just saying horrible things about the way I looked. I'd be scrutinised. From that minute of Josh being born until I think I was diagnosed 9 months later.
Oh, gosh, that's a long time to deal with that alone.
Yeah, it was hell, honestly, because I was living a lie.
Yeah.
I was going to work as Natasha the pop star.
Yeah.
I was falling apart. I was just the vessel. But how could I complain? Got a healthy baby. Got everything I've always wished for. Everyone's going to think I'm ungrateful. It was just how can I get through this day without anyone knowing what's really going on?
And that's the problem when society makes it so difficult for people to ask for help, because the taboos and the stigma of you're crazy, the baby, you're not fit to be a mother, baby's going to take, all those thoughts go through your mind, and you don't want to open the floodgates and let someone into what's going on in your mind, because you think it can be so scary, it's such a scary place. Why would you let someone else know what's going on inside?
Yeah. Everything was fear. Everything was, even in the hospital just after giving birth, I remember the news was on and it was like a lot about the Iraq war. And I just remember really zoning in and thinking, oh my God, how can I bring a child into a world like this? Like, what mother would do that to a child? My brain was like working in ways it had never thought like that before. I just remember not feeling like I knew anything about what I should do. My mum stayed for maybe a week, but I have got a younger sister. She had to go home. She had to go back to her job. And I remember the day she left, I just hugged her and I wouldn't let go and I was sobbing. And I was like, don't go, don't leave me. And she was like, I have to go. So she got in the car and I remember stood in my window looking, and my brain was going, she'll come back. She knows you need her. She knows you need her. She'll come back. And honestly, I stood in that window for about half an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Crying. Yeah. My heart sunk of, she can't come back. She can't help me. And it was like, it was a very silent cry for help. But I couldn't verbalise my feelings because I didn't get it. I didn't understand. I was so overwhelmed.
But you'd been set up to that point because you'd not been taught or given the toolkits at any point in your career and that start to life of how to verbalise your needs, because you'd actually not been given permission to have wants or needs because you were a machine.
Yeah. The reality of what was happening didn't hit me until that cry. And it was just, my brain went, oh, I'm not equipped for this.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. And I think a lot of people have the support of the family. Like when they have a child, mum and dad or sisters or whoever, everyone's round the corner. Like they'll pop in every day to see how you are. Well, my mum was a 4-hour drive away with another child to look after and a job. It was a very overwhelming, that's all I can say, very overwhelming. And I was back in work at 6 weeks after I gave birth with an emergency C-section. So,
jeez,
in heels on stage, doing full-on dance routines, which, you know, the mind boggles.
Yeah.
At any point, like, did anyone
think to check in? And
I wonder if she's okay.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And what was it that finally kind of got the help and got the recognition? Was there a pivotal moment, or did you?
Yeah, I remember going back to Liverpool for something, and it's all a bit hazy. I just remember I must have been acting quite erratically at this point. I can remember being very erratic and very paranoid and not wanting to do anything, like I was pulling out of a lot of work. Something happened at my mum and dad's house and I was upset. I mean, I ended up having a big argument with my mum. Like I remember her saying like, what's wrong with you or something, and I just remember screaming and running out the house, and like I didn't even have a pair of shoes on. I ran down dark. It was the night. It was lashing down with rain. I can remember being sat in a bush, hiding. No, that sounds ridiculous. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know where I was going. I just sat and cried off a main road in Liverpool under a bush. Like total breaking point. And I can't honestly remember. It's all very hazy. But the next day my mum had me in to see the doctor.
Yeah.
And he said, it's postnatal depression.
Just like that. And that's...
Yeah. But up until that point, I'd winged it a bit.
Yeah.
I'd hid to a certain extent. But, you know, for my mum to see me just like screaming and running into the freaking dark with no shoes on, like a mad woman. And honestly, it was the biggest, it was a cry of relief when the doctor told me that. It's like, oh my God.
Did you have any insight? Did you think you had postnatal depression? Or
Didn't even know what it was.
So out of it?
I'd never seen a TV programme, documentary about it. Bearing in mind, we used to travel a lot anyway. I'd never read an article on it. I'd never heard about a girl being 20 having postnatal depression back then. That was not a topic. Postnatal depression happened to women in their midlife.
Yeah.
Maybe they've given up the career and they're like, they're a bit lost.
Yeah.
Even then it was still written off as, oh, just a woman lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Female hysteria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just, oh, so I'm not crazy.
And then like there's actual hope of there's something to work with to fix, to shift this, to find you again.
Yeah. Well.
But I guess then there's a lot of unpacking to do, because actually in order to process that, some of this was layered upon the lack of mental health support previously.
Yeah. And also it wasn't like, okay, she's been diagnosed with postnatal depression, so we're going to give her some time off.
Of course not. Why would that? That would be too obvious.
It was, oh, okay, we'll get back in the car because you've got to go back to London and go to work, and we'll find you a therapist somewhere in London. Yeah. Wow. The first therapist I went to see was, I remember it was on Harley Street. It was this woman. She had a sick suit on. She was so like Ice Maiden. Everything was white in the office. And I just walked in and I just remember thinking, well, I'm not going to tell you anything because you're terrifying me. She was very stern. It was very clinical. Okay, I think there's people in the world who want to pay for that. Yeah. That was not what I needed.
No.
I needed nurturing. I needed to be cocooned with love.
Yeah.
That was so sterile and terrifying. I basically left going, I'm okay, you know, like, I'm okay.
Is this necessary?
Yeah, honestly, I just lied through my teeth.
Gosh.
I thought, I ain't telling you a thing. So that didn't go to plan. Obviously, it's very apparent I'm not fine. So I go to see someone else. And I won't name names, but I didn't know who I was going to see. But when I got there, I remember thinking, I've watched you on the telly. She used to be like a TV psychologist who would pop up on morning TVs talking about different things. So instantly I was like, are you going to tell everyone?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Are you going to tell the world my, like, so I just was like, I don't really want to, what if I tell you something and then one day I'm watching you and you're not naming names, but you're talking about me?
Yeah.
I thought, no, I can't tell you.
No.
I'll give you surface level. I'm not telling you the dark stuff.
So once again, I'm fine.
Once again, it's like, went to see her maybe twice. She's fine. No, I'm not. You know, I'm slowly unraveling at work. My behaviour's odd. I can't relax. Then it's decided Mum will tour with me. She will bring Josh with me because I'm never seeing my son. And, you know, that was a massive issue.
I assumed he would be still with you.
No. So the minute I went back to work, my mum became Josh's nanny. So he was living with her in Liverpool. And then when I come home, she'd bring him to me.
Oh my goodness. No wonder, again.
So that's being separated from your child.
Why is your mental health not getting better?
Then I'd come home and when I'd be with him and he'd cry, I'd go to Nan.
Oh, no.
So my feelings of being a not good enough parent.
Mum guilt.
Yeah. All the layers.
It's perfect storm.
Yeah. So it that went on obviously for 9 months. It was just so chaotic. And then I finally found an amazing woman who, you know, she just had like a normal house somewhere in London. I think the first few sessions, maybe 3, I just cried for 3 hours, an hour each time. And at the end, she'd just be like, okay, I'll see you next week. And it was finding myself again.
Yeah.
When you're that tightly wound, even being able to explain how you feel to someone is impossible.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, she'd be like, how do you feel? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but so now you have to find a way to express how you feel, because I'd locked everything away. So,
But you'd not been allowed
no,
that until then.
no, for years.
Yeah.
I'd never truly spoken honestly about how I felt.
That's it. So you don't even know, even if you wanted to, it's foreign to you, it's alien to you of how to actually
it was like
that.
It was learning another language, and the language of feelings.
In a world that's
which you know, dodged at all costs, because even acknowledging feelings was like, if you open that gate, you're going to have a meltdown, and we haven't got time for that, so we just keep going. Yeah. So it was like, when I look back, I go, whoa, wow. And I'm really proud of myself, because I went through a lot, and I'm here.
It could have been a lot worse. It could have been a very different outcome.
Could have been very different. It could have been worse. I know I'm a warrior and a strong person, and I've had to go through so much trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other traumas that I won't even go into, but it's a lot for one person in one person's lifetime. But now I just see it as like the first 30 years was the lessons, and then the next, however, will be the blessings and the learnings from the lessons. So, you know, some people don't have to do 30 years. I did. I was like, always go, it must have been horrible in another life. But yeah, there's been a lot of trauma and a lot of unpacking and a lot of healing. And I'm still quite vulnerable. Sometimes it's more raw than other times. But I mean, I think more than anything, I'm proud of the robustness, I suppose.
Yeah.
Of being able to go through that, but still
get to the other side,
and then come back. Go back to the career I actually ran away from and
Yeah,
said I would never do ever again.
I know that's there's something called post-traumatic growth, which not everybody can get to, where it's one thing to work through those traumas, but to then get to a place where you're actually stronger in spite of it, and through going through it. It's a post-traumatic growth, and actually it can be quite a profound, life-changing place to get to, and to then be able to pass it on to those lessons and toolkits to your children as well, and your approach to how you parent and what you're trying to teach your children. It's really quite profound. It's really, amazing.
I think for me, I just don't want them to ever have to go through all that trauma and stress that I did. Ultimately, they will. They'll have their own stresses and they'll have their own traumas, but I hope that it won't take them 9 months.
Yeah.
Or however many, 5 years, what it was realistically, to get the help they need. I don't want them to have the breakdowns. I don't want them to end up under the hospital's care, which happened to me years after Atomic Kitten,
Yeah.
It was like, I did a little bit of therapy, which ultimately brought me to the decision of leaving the band. But then once I left the band, I didn't continue the therapy.
Oh. Oh.
So I left the band, and then, so the band trauma was done, but then the new traumas of how do I function in society as someone who has literally had their arse wiped for the past 5 years, who now has a baby, you know, it's just like, ah!
Yeah, that's a massive shift in lifestyle and everything.
It was like I was, I don't know, like a malfunctioned young person with a child. Although, like, I think one of the main things that just kept me focused and going was being a mum, because I constantly wanted to be better for him.
Yeah.
So that pushed me. But there was a hell of a lot of flailing and panicking and, oh my God, what the hell? And still living in London away from my family, no support system, toxic relationships, you know, looking for the support I needed in the wrong people, trusting the wrong people, being manipulated by the wrong people seeing me as a cash cow, and me seeing so desperate for safety and support that I was just accepting the bare minimum when I deserve so much better. So yeah, you know, there was toxicity coming at me in other ways. I just swapped one evil for another one.
And it's only so long before what you experience mentally starts to affect the body. And we're so close to kind of making that connection, because you actually did then go on to get diagnosed with autoimmune disease as well, didn't you?
I did. So actually things started to manifest during lockdown. So for years I'd been complaining of just not feeling right, just energy down. Every time I'd be sent for blood, they'd come back, they're fine. You know, your iron's fine.
Oh, do you know, honestly, this is the biggest bugbear of mine. They test like 4 bloods.
Yeah.
Like, they don't do the full panel, and then
No.
they say, well, it's fine, so therefore, what else? Nothing, could be nothing.
Yeah.
Are you joking? That's... Sorry.
So that has been going on for many years, and it's lockdown. I'm not doing anything. I'm literally in the house. I'm doing less than ever before, but I just felt, just so exhausted. So I was like, right, I'm saving up the money. You know, this was COVID. And I'm going to go and see a specialist. And I found someone on Harley Street, actually Liz from my band, had used them. And she'd come back and said, oh, I've had all this massive blood profile done. I think I went to see her and she took like 10 vials, if not more. So I had a massive, like this big blood profile done, and it came back with pernicious anemia, which is B12.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
So I went to the doctors and they were like, umming and ahhing because it was a private thing. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go private again, because I ain't got time to keep, I've spent years feeling like rubbish. So I went private, and I now have a B12 every month, and I'm like a new person.
Yeah.
That was like the first thing. Then after giving birth to Kitty, that is her name.
I love that name.
Perimenopause in full force. And plus, I've just done my whole pregnancy without any B12. So I'm feeling, and I just put it down to being in my 40s and giving birth. So I started going to the gym to get fit because I was releasing music last year. And all of a sudden I'm going to the gym, and when I go to bed, it's almost like I've been in a boxing match. Every single part of my body was in agony, and I was thinking, why are my fingertips so, like, why do my fingertips throb? And I'd be getting out of bed the next day and I'd be like, oh, and it was like the DOMS, but everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, but I only did upper, like, why is everything hurting so much? So this was getting gradually worse, and I was doing 3 training sessions a week and obviously exasperating my body, but because I didn't know what the hell was going on, And in my head, I need to get fit for the video.
Yeah.
I just continued and continued, meanwhile feeling worse and worse. And 2 days before the video, I'm in London, I'm learning choreography, and I was going to a pharmacy and I was buying deep heat and I was taking painkillers, because even though it was the most simple dance routine I've ever done in my life, my body was in so much pain. My neck, it was almost like I had whiplash. I could hardly move it. I was peeling myself off the mattress in the morning.
gosh.
I was in the shower, like stretching, thinking, what the hell is going on? Then I went and did the video shoot. So obviously I'm just running on nervous energy at this point. And the day after, it was Mother's Day. And I remember just waking up in bed, not being able to move, thinking, what is going on? My whole body was just shutting down on me. It was difficult to walk. It was difficult to hold the baby. I remember even in the escape room, which is like right up my street, I just sat on a chair at the side. I just couldn't stand. I had no energy to stand up. Everything hurt. And in my mind, I was like, I'm booking myself in with the doctor as soon as I get back home. So I thought, maybe it's menopause. But I mean, does menopause just turn you into like this 90-year-old woman overnight? I've no idea. They did all my blood profile and that came back. I was on the cusp of perimenopause, but not quite. But my thyroid was just off the chart. And I was like, okay, well, what does that actually mean? I was told, look, you're going to have to take medication for the rest of your life. And I'm like, surely not.
Yeah.
Surely not.
I'll have to change my diet and
Is it a gut thing? You know, surely I could just cleanse my gut and I'll be fine. It's like, no, like you've, after talking to lots of people about it, there is absolutely no surprise that my whole body is shut down after the years of stress.
Yeah.
I feel like everything that is happening, early perimenopause, thyroid, has all been brought on through years of stress. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an adrenal fatigue thrown in there somewhere. But
you've been living on a cortisol and, you know,
honest to God,
for so long.
4 years, that churning pit feeling, that's all I ever knew. This is what I say, I'm so mindful of everything. I'm not just as easy breezy. My body reacts in different ways. I'm constantly having to slow down and bring that fight or flight mode, like relax that feeling. It happens over the smallest of things.
And that's exhausting to live with.
It's exhausting. And then, you know, throw in an actual life problem.
Yeah.
It's like, like I can't breathe. How I am has totally changed. Like going back to thyroid, that was probably a 6-month journey of finding the right dose. The initial medication was too high, which I was like, I can't cope. I'm so anxious. I can't do this. I was like, what is going on? You know, like I couldn't even just be. Everything was like an assault on my senses. So that was like, okay, so we need to really strip that back and just start super low and gradually go to a point where I can get through the day without having a million spikes, and I can just feel relaxed.
Yeah. I mean, when you've got one autoimmune condition, you know, often people have like a spectrum of them and multiple ones. So if there is some overlap there, that wouldn't be too surprising. Yeah.
So it's, you know, you try to, it's like getting back on your B12s, then it's sorting out the medication. Then it's like 6 months in, I'm feeling absolutely amazing. And then all of a sudden I wake up one day and I'm like, I want to kill my husband.
Yeah.
Everything it, and
there's the menopause.
It sounds like, you know, women going through any, you know, perimenopause or menopause will understand, and we can laugh. You know, women who aren't and men, they'll just be like, you know, that's out of order.
Those feelings are real and they're so overpowering. They're so intense.
like I've read so much now since going into perimenopause because I was contemplating my whole life. Like I just genuinely thought everything was wrong. I'd made all the wrong decisions. I was in the wrong career. Maybe me and my husband aren't who we are. Maybe we shouldn't be together. And I've read the rate of divorce through perimenopause, undiagnosed,
Right.
is huge because women go, oh, I'm not supposed to be with you, because your brain is just saying, I can't cope with anything. But actually it's undiagnosed perimenopause or menopause.
That's fascinating. That's really interesting.
Yeah. So don't divorce your husband straight away. I mean, I have to laugh about this, but at the time I was traumatized because my brain is looking at this man going, are you the right person for me? And I'm thinking, oh my God, like, oh, not again. I was certain he was the one.
Yeah, and then goes the cortisol shift of I can't handle this. Like,
yeah, exactly. And you're just like, nothing makes sense. You're contemplating everything. You want to run away.
yeah.
It's honestly been throw in a toddler, a baby.
Yeah,
This has all happened
5
since
children.
3 at home, looking after my older kids, having a baby who doesn't sleep. Honestly, it's been the craziest ride of 19 months. That's how old the baby is, 19 months. But I am a warrior.
See, and throw in the fact that you then decided to go back
to music. Yeah, honestly, there's been days where I'm just like, I can't do
because life was so simple, it was boring. Why not just kind of
For me, even now, like when I'm having those days, something as simple of I'm gonna have an hour upstairs, so babe, you hold the fort, and it's essential oils in my bath.
Yeah.
It's a book, or it's just something. I know this sounds ridiculous, but like when I say mind-numbing, like a serial killer program on Netflix, that doesn't bother me because I'm like, this is not my world.
Yeah.
It doesn't frighten me because it's just not my world. I'll watch something like that. I'll go and like, I'll do a face mask. I'll do it. Just being able to go, okay, I'm having a time out is, it's like, it is a mini spa break. It is just being able to shut the mind off and fill my cup up. Whereas I used to run the gym, now I run the bath. I've still not been able to quite get my mojo with fitness. If I get on the Peloton, I feel like I'm destroyed for days. So I feel like I'm still trying to find that outlet where I can get them endorphins that make me feel good on a regular daily basis. So I'm still finding my feet with that. And also I'm exhausted. Do I want to go to the gym or do I want extra half an hour in bed?
Yeah.
That right now I know sleep top trumps the gym.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, I haven't got it all figured out. Each day is a work in progress.
Like just listening, I mean, you need to take a step back and just look at where you're still at, though, to go through everything that you've gone through physically, mentally, like with career-wise and everything, the hits. You know, it's no wonder that those kind of early days of kind of lack of support and mental health awareness set you up. And then, like we say, the body does then physically react if we don't look after ourselves. Yeah. And to now then live with autoimmune disease. But then look at you're thriving. You're absolutely thriving. It doesn't always feel that way.
I'm thriving with assistance. You know, I am medicated now for the rest of my life. And that, for me, was a bit of a mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can swear.
The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I get my glass of water, I go into my bathroom, I open my cabinet and I take my thyroid medication. That really pissed me off for months. I hated doing it. It was like, I'm not invincible anymore. It just bothered me.
We're human, we're mortal.
One, it was having to remember to do it. And it was just like,
yeah.
Like no more just going with the flow. It's like, this is what I have to do. Another thing as well, which autoimmune disease has really affected, is my voice.
Really?
So the research I've done into B12 deficiency is it has effects on your voice. Now I have to say, since taking my B12s, my voice feels like a new voice.
That's amazing.
But also with the thyroid, when I'm feeling overwhelmed and medication alone isn't cutting the mustard, and because life's really hectic, it affects my voice. And my voice goes, and like, that's my livelihood, that's my money, that's my passion.
Yeah.
And some days when all I want to do is sing and I can't because I've got nothing to give, like there's nothing in me. I am depleted on all levels, but I know like I've got to go and do a gig. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
It's like, as I said, that just get up and go and do a gig, loads of energy. Like that version of me doesn't exist anymore. And it's having to like say goodbye to that.
It's a grief. It's a disenfranchised grief process that you've got to get through.
It is. It's being able to accept that you're just not that person anymore. And I'm still trying to find the balance where I can be like, okay, I'm happy. I'm happy, but I'm not fully happy with my health.
Yeah.
I think there's more things that I'm wanting to explore and more ways to support myself. I think that I can be doing. And
you're doing it with such a mindfulness though, that can only do you well. You're not just ignoring it, you're really proactively addressing those things and being aware of them. If you could go back to 16-year-old Natasha and give her some advice, what would it be?
I think it's really difficult when you say go back and give someone who's 16 advice, because honestly, I would never listen to it.
That's so
true. I just thought I knew everything. I think what I try and do now is share what I've learned with my kids, like tell them the stories. It's like trickled in like all the time. It's not overkill, but there's always like, if something happens, I can go, okay, well, this is what I've learned through that. So it becomes their norm. It's not just one piece of advice. It's like a learned behavior. Like you mentioned, I'm doing it now in a mindful way. And that's because I learned the hard way. If I just ignore this, it's the pressure cooker that's going to explode. And I don't want to feel that scared and vulnerable again. Because do you know what?
It's a horrible place.
One, it's a horrible place, and I've had way too much time there. So I have to learn by my lessons now. And I want to enjoy my life. I really want to move forward, given whatever's left the best shot. So being mindful is definitely part of that, and learning from my lessons.
I don't think you realise just how far you've come and how well you're actually doing. Like, it's incredible hearing where you were to where you are now, because it's not an easy process to get there. And having to work through mental health issues anyway is not easy. Having to live with an autoimmune disease is not easy. But to go through all that and still be like, okay, come on, I still want to do the things that I want to do, and I want to take on this new career challenge and like get back to it.
And I think it's also important to live by what put that fire in your belly when you were a child, before the stresses of life and the traumas of life kicked in. And for me, that was performing, that was singing. Even now with my husband, when I have days where I'm like, oh babe, like this is too difficult, because being an independent artist in today's industry is super, super difficult. And I'm just, well, I have launched my own record label, Morpho Records, and I intend to look after and nurture
Yeah.
young up and coming artists. And it's like, I need to share all my lessons with not just my kids, but other kids who are of me, all them years ago.
Yeah.
Now, I can't keep everyone safe, and everyone's going to have their own life lessons. But I hope that my record label is, it's a place that has heart.
Yeah.
It comes from experience. A lot of labels, the people running them, have never walked in the shoes of them as an artist. Well, I've got worn out shoes as an artist. So I feel like it's my turn to give back and help those coming in. So it's that what is my purpose now? Yeah, I love singing and it's great to do music, but helping the younger generation hopefully navigate it in a very, very less traumatic way than what I had to do.
That's really incredible. That's really admirable. And it's that putting what you went through into something positive for somebody else. You've gone through it. Hopefully somebody else doesn't have to. You'll create what you didn't have.
Yeah.
And hopefully allow someone else to have
thrive.
a bit of a smoother ride.
Yeah,
bit of a smoother ride.
You said about advice.
Yeah.
I wish someone would have been able to sit me down and really explain that my job was a job. It was a business. It wasn't all encompassing. It was a dream, but it was a business. And actually, when I went home at night, I could switch off from that and I could say no to things. So yeah, that was probably what I would change.
And I think so many people are guilty of that in it's very easy to now with phones and everything to just become more consumed and hyper-focused on something. And
you've got to have boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries and balance.
Absolutely.
Well, that's a good title, Boundaries and Balance.
Yeah.
There's the title for the book.
Love that. Love it.
And the final question we ask everybody, when you wake up in the morning, what brings you joy?
I'd say the first thing that comes to my mind is the sun shining through like the blinds. Life for me is just so much easier when it's sunny. But I don't know, if I wake up and that sun's there, it just always makes me feel like, you know what, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. Natasha, it's been so wonderful talking to you and getting to know you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being one of our voices and being with us on the charity as an ambassador to the charity. So thank you so, so much.
And thanks for having me. And I just have to say, I think that what you ladies are doing is just incredible and commendable. And you are going to help so many people in times where they feel pretty lost. So huge respect to the pair of you.
No, thank you. Thank you.